Awakening your everyday wisdom, physical and mental health. People in the United States are living longer than we did 100 years ago, on average. And that's due to a significant drop in the infant mortality rate. But are we any healthier? I know people in my own circle who've been told they have to take a certain medication for the rest of their lives. If we're going to safeguard our health and stick around long enough to help our planet go through its greatest transformation ever, we need to be healthy. And I think we need to be healthy without chemical dependency if we can avoid it. This video is going to offer a few checklists so that you can assess your own level of health and maybe look at ways that you might want to improve your health. Before we go any further, I'll introduce myself. I'm a light worker. That's someone who has a meditation practice of sending light and love to the whole world. I'm also a seeker. That's somebody who doesn't subscribe to a particular religion, but rather seeks divine truth in many places, creeds and dharmas of all kinds. My role in this video is that of fellow traveler. I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything, though I do have my own ideas, but my role is to offer support for those of us who are looking around going, things are changing quickly, things are unstable. What do we need to do to join together to help us have a better world? So let's get started with why focus on health. Lightworkers, seekers, healers, ministers, teachers, and all others who are concerned about the well-being of not only ourselves, our families, and those in our circles, but our whole planet, and those who feel like they're on a spiritual mission. It's critically important for us to be around as long as possible. We're not sure how long this transition is going to take place, but it's ramping up in the next 20 or 30 years. So in order for us to be around and do our part, we need to be strong, healthy, and happy. So if we need to be here, why not be here pain-free? Do you wake up feeling rested? Do you go to bed pain-free? Do you get at least 15 minutes a day of some form of focused movement? That could be exercise, walking, housework, dancing. There's all kinds of ways to get that movement in. But do you get at least 15 minutes a day? Are your home cleaning products and bodily care products relatively free from extra perfumes and colors and other chemicals? And is your diet relatively free of additives, colors and flavors, preservatives, other ingredients that you might not even be able to pronounce? So out of those 5, if your score is 10 or more, then you're probably fairly healthy just from that little assessment. If you want to take a longer one, most of the other assessments on my website have between 16 and 20 statements on them. So that's a broader picture. Let's take a look at weight and diabetes. These are very big health indicators or lack of health indicators. So about 2/3 of the population in the United States, it's estimated, is overweight or obese. Obesity rates in children have almost tripled in the last 25 years. So when it comes to diet, there's no perfect diet for everyone. We need to listen to our bodies and pay close attention to what we eat that makes us feel good and what we eat that makes us feel bad. That's a simple way of doing it. Some people can get away with eating extra sugar. Most of us can't. The key is to just find out what your body needs and wants. It can actually tell you if you listen. So it's also tricky because our habits can overrule our common sense and can drown out what our body's trying to tell us. So we might have to take a look at some of those habits and question whether they're healthy for us or not. If you have a weight issue, the main thing to realize is that the diet industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and most of the products don't work. Because if they did, we would all lose weight and they would go out of business. So be very careful when it comes to jumping onto one diet and then another in a different program. We'll use some basic common sense in handling our weight, if you like. Why are our children suffering from so much obesity? And I'm going to give you some facts, so I'll look at my notes here. According to the World Health Organization, the number of people with diabetes rose to almost 4 times the number of people with diabetes 34 years ago. In that same time period, our population doubled. Population doubled, but diabetes was 4 times as much. So our children are going to naturally be affected by this if the general population is affected by this. Isn't it time for us to take a look at the root causes of why we continue to ingest foods and beverages and substances, including prescription drugs, that aren't healthy for us and make us fat and sick, make our kids fat and sick? So a few places to look for root causes. 1, advertisements. If there's any way you can get away from commercial television and other sources of advertisements, that would be a step in what I would consider the right direction. Whenever you hear a commercial that says, ask your doctor about this or that drug, let that be a warning sign. The pharmaceutical companies are not just advertising to the doctors, they're advertising to you and spending big bucks on it. So allow a little red flag to go up whenever you hear that. And there are some programs, almost every commercial break, there are 2 to 3 of those kinds of ads. So be wary. Side effects. Read the side effects. And if you have to ask your doctor anything, say, why should I take a drug that gives me headaches, makes me dizzy, and some of them might even be fatal? Huh? When I saw that on some of the list of side effects, I'm like, well then who would take this? Really, who would? You know, there are a few natural products that may have some side effects, but it's significantly less, in my view. Look for high sodium. We've heard this a lot, especially people who have blood pressure issues. There's been a connection with high sodium, but I remember about the 70s, they came out and said, oh, salt doesn't really affect your blood pressure. But I think we're back to it now. Salt does affect your blood pressure. Look carefully at foods like pizza and salsa, canned soup, hot dogs, and other processed meats. They are huge in sodium. Sugar in processed foods. You know, we've been hearing about this somewhat, but a lot of us like the taste of sugar. We want our foods to taste yummy. But we might have to train our palates to be less inclined to go for the sweet stuff. Most of us like sugar, And so we oftentimes don't really want to look at the truth, but sugar is hidden as well. Corn syrup is a real big one. Dextrose, sucrose, maltose, lactose, and there's a whole bunch others, some I can't even pronounce. But I think it's incumbent upon us to look at the amount of sugar that we're ingesting in quick foods, processed foods, and so forth. Another place that we can look for a root cause as to why we're fat and sick these days is putting false trust in companies that are processing our food and creating our drugs and selling those to us. So many of us believe that these organizations wouldn't intentionally poison us. I think we have to be a little jaded here, because I think there's a big root cause in going through life lickety-split, assuming that what's coming down the food chain is good for us. We can't assume that anymore. And because we are living at a fast pace, the convenience of microwavable foods and simply meals that are already prepared for us is very tempting, but it could be costing us our lives. So let's not fall into that trap. If you can get back to home cooking, I think you'll enjoy it a lot. Your home will smell delicious when you're cooking a wonderful meal. Your family will appreciate it, and we'll actually have our hunger satisfied with less calories. So I recommend we all try to go back to the basics of cooking at home and having family meals. That's just one of my values. What are some ways to be physically healthy? Haven't we all been hearing about this since kindergarten? Eat right, get plenty of sleep, exercise, breathe fresh air. We know all this stuff. So it's not for lack of knowledge or information. What it's going to require is a change in habits. And that's where we can put up some resistance. But if we really start looking at it and say, wow, if I need to be here because I'm on a spiritual mission and things are changing rapidly in the world, then perhaps I need to change my ways. Not easy at all, but we know what to do. So let's just do it. Let's do the right things. So now we'll switch gears and take a look at mental health. So if you did gain something from this video, please check the like button. And if you feel like sharing it, that's good too. Thank you.